Do you find that in the fashion, the PR, the Hollywood industries, there's like an extraordinary amount of, it seems from the outside, of artifice around money that people have, around the cost of things. Just the whole thing seems very obscured.
I think that the whole value system is like totally like ass backward, upside down, and 90% of it is fake.
And like, what kind of things tend to be fake?
Well, most people in fashion and entertainment don't have any money.
I've heard that often.
They don't have any money. I always say the definition of a fashion person is a masochist who likes to travel. And I only want the best. I want it yesterday, and I'll pay you in 90 days. That's a fashion person.
Do you like talking about money personally?
Sure, I can talk about money.
What about, so I think one thing that I'm very curious about, and to get into your book a little bit, so it obviously, you should all read it. If you have to cry, go outside.
Yeah, I'll just email me. I'll send you a copy for free since my book company never sends me checks anymore.
Well, one thing that kind of sticks out in the book is you kind of have, to me anyway, is it seems like you have a pretty normal background economically, average. How would you describe
below
it?
average.
Below average.
I grew up in a socially economic challenged family. Is that you say my parents didn't have any money? Well, I still support my mom now.
Totally, but
no financial planning whatsoever in my family.
What I mean by that, though, is when you came into this world, you were probably surrounded by people who came from the opposite, who had, who came from an enormous amount of money. Would you say that's accurate?
When I came into the world of fashion
and PR.
Oh, yeah. I was in way over my head. I mean, culturally.
I
grew up in a place where cow tipping was a sport and like fish fry Friday and pizza was like a night out. But I have to say, at the same time, there was a really beautiful upside to that too.
Yeah.
Because people had to be more interesting because you didn't have things to cover up the fact that, like, you weren't at the Carlisle.
Right.
You know what I mean? When you're at a fish fry, on a Friday night, you kind of have to talk to each other. Like, Eartha Kitt's not going to come out and do a dance. Like, you have to figure out what you're going to talk about.
I'm always very interested in how people who came from backgrounds that were, working class, middle class, et cetera, and come into a very different environment where, as you mentioned, a lot of these people in these jobs aren't making money. So they usually will come from some kind of inherited or generational wealth in order to do that.
It's like horses. You either sleep in the stable with the horse or you have 6. There's nothing in between.
And I'm always curious with people like that, what that felt like. Did you feel insecure at first ever?
I felt really bad. I felt not prepared for the world at all that I walked into. And till this day, any of the advice, and my mom graduated high school, but she actually has given me the best advice in my career, whether it's been paid or unpaid people. Like Beverly just has some really like, Mom, if I don't get $69,000 by tomorrow, I'm going to like bounce my payroll. Oh, get over it. Do you know how many times? Just you're tenacious. You always end up on your feet. Pull yourself up from your bootstraps. You'll be fine. Beverly, is really good. But when I got into the industry, I felt really bad. I felt really unprepared. I'd be at tables and people would be like, oh, well, then we would go skiing in Stade, and, we spent the summers in Capri. I had no idea that Stade was in Switzerland or Capri was in Italy. I didn't know anything. And then we would be at a table, and there would be, like, a lot of silverware. And I was just like, oh, my God. Like, there's silverware, like, above my plate. Yeah. Because the only information I got was like start from the left and work your way in. But that didn't include like 4 spoons to the right, a fork, a knife, and a spoon above, a demi-tasse cup, blah, blah, blah. And back in those days, way back in those days, there used to be payphones in the bathroom.
Right.
And I would go and call my mother and I'd be like, I'm at a table and I don't know what to do. And then she'd be, it's like, it's like calling Hee-Haw to figure out what to do at Dynasty, It's just like, she didn't know what the hell to say. Like, she would wing it. But, I would watch to see what other people were doing. And, it's hard.
Yeah.
But then, and I was really embarrassed to say where I came from.
Yeah.
And, what my education level was, that... a lot of these people had like PhDs or they went to boarding schools like around the world, and I would just always hope that it was the one time in my life where I didn't talk as much. I was just like, hoped it would just pass by me,
Yeah.
But then when I got into my 30s, I just learned that was what made me special and I should celebrate it. But that pathway of getting to own that and be okay with it. But the one thing that I did have was I had good basic manners. So like
Right.
I knew not to open up any, like these were the skills that I came with, like never go into anybody's refrigerator, always say please and thank you.
Yes.
Send a thank you note. If you have good manners and you know how to read, you can go anywhere in the world. So that those were like my potatoes.
Yes.
And from those like potatoes, I could make a gourmet meal by building on that basic skill set. Like that's all I had.